The Division is, as most of you probably know by now, a loot-driven shooter game, meaning that the strength of your character will for a big part be determined by what weapons and what gear you have. Now, gear and weapons can be obtained by completing missions, killing enemies, or simply searching every corner of some abandoned apartment. But luckily for us, there's also another way of getting those items, and that is to craft them yourself. And for today's video, that is what we're going to be looking at, the crafting in the Division. So let's get started. If you want to craft items, there is only one place to do that, and that is in the base of operations. Yeah, I know, there are some other safe houses all around the map, but those don't really have the crafting station that you will need. Now, crafting in itself isn't something overly complicated. It works pretty much like the crafting in most other games. You need to get a certain amount of crafting materials to then craft a specific item. So the first step in the process is to actually find those materials that can be used for crafting. And unlike a lot of other games like Fallout 4 or Dying Light, where you can craft things out of literally every piece of trash that you find, the Division has a little bit of a different approach to it. You see, crafting materials in the Division come in 5 different categories. You have fabric or cloth, depending on how you want to call it. You have weapon parts, you have tools, electronics, and last up, Division tech. Now, each of these categories allows you to craft different things. For example, weapon parts and tools are used to create weapons and weapon mods. Fabric and electronics are used to create gear and gear mods. And Division tech is used to craft items from special Dark Zone blueprints. And just like the weapons and the gear in the game, the crafting materials also come in 5 different rarities. The rarities used to be called common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary. We talked about these, but the developers changed their names to worn, standard, specialized, superior, and high-end. And they probably did that so that it fits the theme for the game better, but it still works in the exact same way. The higher the rarity is, the harder it is to find, and the better the quality. Getting these crafting materials is also not the most complicated thing in the world. Sometimes they're dropped by killed enemies and you can just loot it. You can also search for some buildings to find a few, and you might get one by simply helping a civilian in need. Oh, and also, if you have any weapons or if you have gear that you don't want anymore because it's simply not good enough, you can deconstruct it to then get some materials as well. The cool thing is that when a weapon or a gear piece has, let's say, a specialized rarity to it, which is the color blue, and then you deconstruct that item, you will get blue crafting materials in return. So let's say that, for example, you happen to find a few low-level but high-rarity weapons early on in the game. Now, because they have a low level, they will obviously not be that strong later down the road, but it is still worth keeping them because you can always deconstruct them to get back some high-end crafting materials, which I imagine are pretty rare. But let's move on. How does the crafting work? Well, if you head over to the crafting bench in the base of operations, you will see that if you want to craft some items, you will first need to get some blueprints. Just like most other things in the Division, blueprints can be obtained by completing missions, looting them from dead enemies, simply searching some abandoned areas again, and so forth. And once you find the blueprint, it will get stored at your crafting bench and you can keep it forever. Blueprints in this game come in 9 different categories. You have weapons, masks, body armor, backpacks, gloves, holsters, knee pads, weapon mods, and gear mods. There's also something on the bottom called material conversion, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, for each item that you craft in a game, you will need to spend a certain amount of crafting materials. For example, this blueprint for the body armor requires 2 pieces of standard rarity fabric. But if you would want to craft this level 4 standard rarity magazine, you will need to get 2 standard rarity tools, and the same goes for the silencer. Just like the weapons and gear in the game, the blueprints do not scale with your character, which means that, for example, this blueprint here will always give you level 4 standard rarity body armor. So yeah, if you want to be able to craft that endgame gear, you will need to get lucky enough to actually find a level 30 high-end blueprint, which I'm guessing they're gonna be pretty rare. Now, the fun thing about the crafting is that there's always a certain degree of randomness to it. Yes, if you craft level 4 standard rarity body armor, you will always get level 4 standard rarity body armor. But there will always be a few variables. In this case, the armor rating will range from 18 to 22. And on top of that, you will also get a boost in either one of 3 character attributes, but you don't know which one and you also do not know how much. And also, last up, there will be one random bonus to the item, which can almost be anything. It is only after crafting the item that you get to see just how lucky you were. In this case, we got a 20-point armor rating, plus 14 on the electronics attribute, and a 5% experience boost for kills. For crafting weapons in the game, it works pretty much the same way. It will do damage within a certain range, and it will have some buffs, but you don't know exactly how much until you craft the item. With weapon mods, it is again the same story. You will always craft a specific item, but one time all the bonuses on that item might be higher than another time. It all comes down to luck. Now there is something that I wanted to talk about as well, and that is the gear mods. Obviously these mods are a little bit different than the mods that you have for your weapons, as you really cannot just put a silencer on your gas mask, for example. And although I'm not sure exactly how these gear mods work and what they do, we have seen some things such as integrated performance mod and integrated stamina mod, which pretty much have the same icon as the icon for the gear mods at the crafting station. And then last up on the list for the crafting station, we have the material conversion, which is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You can convert your lower rarity crafting materials into higher rarity crafting materials. For example, here you can craft superior fabric, but only if you're willing to spend 5 specialized fabric on that. And it doesn't really seem like a fair trade to me. I don't know exactly how valuable this is, and I really have no idea how rare the higher rarity crafting materials are. But if you, for example, have an overload of standard rarity tools and you need some more superior ones, well, you can just convert those instead of deconstructing some weapons or grinding the gear until you finally get lucky enough. Now, the one thing that I noticed about this as well is that you cannot convert the Vision Tech material items, so I can imagine that those are pretty exclusive and pretty hard to come by. Now, very soon I'll be taking a look at what all these crafted items, gear pieces and weapons actually do for the player and what all the benefits are. So if you want to know more about that, you better stay tuned. But until then, I really hope you enjoyed and I will see you guys later. Or like they say, in the Netherlands. Zie je later!